Good evening, folks. I hope you had a nice Thursday. I hope you're having a relaxing evening. There's some things that we need to discuss, and it's got to do with emergencies. And I had one today, and I want to tell you about it. And I want to tell you what dawned on me during this emergency. Last night, when I was getting ready for bed, I put my phone on the charger, right? I shut it off and put it on the charger, and I went to bed. Woke up this morning, got my coffee, went over to my phone, unplugged it, went to turn it on, and the screen was frozen. I'm hitting the buttons. I'm trying to scroll. Nothing. Nothing. The phone was the face of the phone was there, on an iPhone. Even though you shut it off when it's fully charged, your screen picture comes up. I couldn't get past that, no matter what I did. So I grabbed my tablet and I'm looking up iPhones, screen freeze, and it told me how to hard reset it. The two buttons on the right or on the left, the volume buttons, you hold those in. And then after you hold those in, you push the on and off button on the other side of the phone. I did that. I got another screen that came up wanting to know if I want to sign in or make an emergency call. Well, I tried to scroll on that. Nothing. It didn't recognize my finger. It didn't recognize my stylus. It didn't recognize nothing. It would not, the screen was totally frozen. Okay, now I'm really freaking out. The only other option I got is take the phone in to the cellular place. That's 17 miles away from me. So I started thinking about this and I thought, this is horrible. Horrible. I have no landline phone. I have no other phone, a secondary phone. I was home alone. I'm 70 years old. What if there was an emergency? What if I needed help? I can't, if I called for help, if there was an emergency, if I called for help, what would be the first thing somebody would say? Who can I call for you? Oh, we'll call this one. Well, what's their phone number? I don't know. It's in my damn phone. And my phone is frozen. I don't know any of my kids' phone numbers by memory. I don't know my grandson's phone number by memory. Any of my emergency contacts, I don't know their number because it's saved in the very phone that was frozen solid. Useless. Useless. So I drove the 17 miles to the cellular store, and I know the guy over there. I've been dealing with that guy since 2010. And I walked in there and I told him my situation and the problem, and he just kind of looked baffled, and he's messing with my phone and everything. And he goes, I'm going to hard reset it. And I said, I did that already. And he's like, well, what happened? And I said, oh, a different screen came up wanting to know if I wanted to make an emergency call. But even that, it it didn't accept my swipe. It didn't accept nothing. And then eventually it just blacked out. So the guy's looking at it and he's playing with it and everything. Well, all of a sudden he went and it took him, I think it was 3 attempts to do a hard reboot on the phone. And he finally got it to operate. And he's looking at me and he says, well, I got it fixed. And I'm like, well, isn't that a defect? I mean, I'm a senior. All my information's in that phone. My medical information is in that phone. My whole life is in that phone. What happens if this happens again? And I'm in a medical emergency. And he looked at me and he said, well, you're really not due for an upgrade yet, but you probably should get one. So I had to dish out the money. Brand new iPhone. I couldn't take the chance of taking that phone back home once he fixed it and have that happen again. So, and I even asked him, is this a popular thing with iPhones? Is this something that you see a lot? And he's like, I have seen it before, but on rare instances. Can I assure you it's not going to happen again? He said, absolutely not. If it happened once, it'll probably happen again. He said, there's probably a defective chip in that phone, something. And he was just throwing ideas out there of why this might have happened. I've had other iPhones that didn't happen, but in this incident, it really taught me a critical lesson. We are so dependent on our phones. And look what happened to me this morning. I didn't have access to my emergency contacts. Oh, I could throw names at let's say, for example, I have a medical emergency and an ambulance picks me up. And I get to the hospital and they're going to say, well, who's your emergency contacts? Well, it's this person. Well, what's their phone number? I don't know. My phone's broke. What good is that? What good is it? So here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to go to the store. I don't know if I'm going to go to Walmart or Dollar General. I'm going to go somewhere. Remember how we used to call our little phone books in our purse, the little black phone book, the little black book? I'm going to go buy me one. And I'm going to write down all my important contacts in that little phone book. And I'm going to keep it in my purse. I am not going to be left vulnerable like that. And here's another thing. Give me a second. Speaking about medical emergencies, this is another thing that you need to keep in mind. Now, I'm telling you this from experience. I worked in an emergency department registering patients, went through this every single night. I can't tell you how many people out there do not have their information. When you go to an emergency room, God forbid, let's take the simplest first. You're feeling really ill, and you go to the emergency room. The first thing they're going to ask you, this was my job now. I would go into the patient's room with my little computer, and I would ask their name, address, who's their primary care physician. People always know that. And then you ask emergency contacts. Okay. And then you ask, what are you here for? And if they say, oh, I don't know, I fell down and I hurt my arm. Okay. That might need an x-ray. And if the x-ray doesn't show exactly enough information, they might say, okay, you know, maybe an MRI. Well, let me tell you about an MRI. I'm sure many of you had one. It's like a huge magnet. They tell you whatever area you're going to have this MRI, whether it a head injury. If you've got dentures, they make you take them out. If you any kind of metal, they make you take it off, take it out, whatever. No earrings, no glasses, no partials. Everything comes out because it's a big, huge magnet. And you're going to get sucked up to it. You see, right? Okay. These are things they've got to know. The next thing they're going to ask you is, what medications are you on? I can't tell you how many people I would have to say at least 90% of people with medical conditions, they come to the emergency department without a list. So you ask, what medications are you on? Oh, I don't know. I'm on something for my heart. I'm on something for seizures. I'm on something for diabetes. Well, do you happen to know the name of it? No, I don't remember. People, let me explain something to you. When you go to an emergency department, the doctor that is going to come in and assess you and treat you has probably never set eyes on you before. He knows nothing about you personally. Oh, he's a doctor. He could treat things. But if you can't tell that doctor what medicines you're on, and he needs to prescribe medicines to you, he's not going to put his medical license in jeopardy by just throwing stuff at you without making sure that it is compatible with the medications you're already on. What I used to do, registering patients, 90%, again, who couldn't tell me what meds they were on, I would carry these little booklets around, and they're small. You list all your medications, what doctor prescribed them, when you take them and how much, and for what condition. On the front, it's got your name, address, phone number, and emergency contacts with phone numbers. On the back, it's got my allergies and or other health problems. Vital information for a strange doctor who knows nothing about you. Needs to know. Your whole little story is right here. Now he can prescribe what he thinks will help you. He knows it will be compatible with the medications you're on, or it might not be compatible with a medication you're on. Because if you can't tell him what medications you're on, and he goes to prescribe what he thinks might help you, he could innocently give you something that is very dangerously incompatible with the medication you're on. And it's like mixing ammonia with bleach. And it could kill you. If you go to the next time you go to your doctor's office, ask for one of these little personal medication record books. And if your doctor's office can't give you one, just write it down. Write down what medications you're on, the milligrams it is. Write your primary care doctor or the doctor that prescribed it if you're seeing a endocrinologist or a cardiologist or a pulmonologist, whatever. Write the doctor's name that gave it to you. Write when you take it. Write what you're taking it for. And write down what diseases you got that you're being treated on a daily basis for. It's pretty simple. Another thing, vital information. For you people that have a stent in your heart, I'm sure when you got that stent and you were being discharged and they were giving you the discharge papers, they also gave you one of these little cards, right? Very important to keep in your wallet. This little card gives your date of birth, the location, which mine says cardiac cath lab, and the doctor that performed the procedure. This little card says the name of your stent. Here's a description of the contents of the stent. Some comes with a coated with a medication and the material it's made out of, Very important. If you need an MRI, it better not be metal. Titanium's okay, but doctors got to know this. And then it's got a picture of a little heart here. You see the little heart? And that little arrow, where am I? That little arrow there will show the doctor, the strange doctor that isn't familiar with you, that will show him where that stent is. Vital information. This needs to be with you 24/7. If you think emergencies can't happen, you're wrong. If you take for granted, well, I'm going to leave the house without my purse. I'm just going for a walk around the block. Really? Can you predict a heart attack? Can you predict a serious fall? Can you predict that you're not going to pass out? No, we don't know. Carry this on you. Carry this medical information card on you. I've even taken it one step further. I made a little printout on my computer of all my medications. Shrunk it down, cut it out. I keep that with, just in case. I also typed out all the procedures I've ever had done with the approximate date. And if you don't have the date, at least try to get the year. I mean, you don't have to get really detailed. Like my very first one says, tonsils removed, chronic strep throat. Okay. Well, then, you go on sinus surgery, and then you get deeper into it. But these are things that are important to, you're going to, when you go to emergency room, you're going to strangers. You're not going to catch your primary care physician there or your cardiologist or endocrinologist or pulmonologist. They're not the ones sitting in the emergency room to treat you. A stranger is in there. So he's a doctor. You've got great nurses in there. They have to be. They're dealing with the worst of the worst in some cases. And here's another thing. You don't know if your next emergency visit, and I hope not, but you don't know if you're even going to be conscious. What if you can't talk? What if it was a car accident and they brought you in and you got a head injury? God forbid. I'm just telling you of things I've seen. You're out like a light because you got a head injury. Nobody's there to talk for you. Or stroke. You're unable to talk. Or God forbid, a heart attack. And you're laying there unconscious. This information is so vital and necessary. And it's so easy to carry around. Men, you don't have purses. These little cards slip right into the little pocket of your wallet. They're small. Okay? They're small. If it could fit in my 2 fingers, it could fit in your wallet. This one's even smaller. 2 of the very most important pieces of paper that you could have on you. So please take care of that. We don't know what the future holds for us, and we certainly aren't given a date when we're born of when things are going to happen. An updated list of all these medical emergencies. And it's so easy to just slip them in the wallet, ladies and gentlemen. The most important thing you can have. This way, an emergency room doctor knows the vital information he needs to safely be able to prescribe what he thinks you need. Because let's say you're admitted and you don't know what medications you're on. Those nurses are now on a wild goose chase before they can even treat you. They got to try to get a hold of your primary care physician to find out what meds you're on, or your other doctors. And let's say it's 11 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning. Do you really think your doctor's going to answer the phone and know off the top of their head, oh, yeah, this patient's on this, this, and this? No. No, they're not going to know. They see you're not their only primary patient. So these nurses in the emergency department are running around calling your doctors, trying to figure out what medications you're on because you don't have a clue. If you want, and then people will write bad reviews about a hospital. Oh, they didn't treat me right, or they treated me wrong. They gave me the wrong medication, blah, 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 blah. Heard it 100 times, probably more. Why'd they give you the wrong medication? Because maybe you didn't know what you were already taking, and one medication nullified the medication that you were on, or you got a bad reaction because the 2 medicines were like mixing ammonia and bleach. Do you see how important it is to carry a small little piece of paper with your medications and the milligrams that it is? And I'm going to tell you, it's all right on the bottle. There's the name. There's the milligram. And right there's the doctor's name that gave it to you. Your pharmacy makes it so easy for you to have all the information to write down on a piece of paper, or ask your doctor for one of those little medical information cards. They make those little cards specifically for you to be able to write down this stuff. Vital information that you carry with you when there's an emergency and you're taken to a hospital. I'm going to tell you right now. When an ambulance used to come in with the patient, if that patient was unconscious, the first thing I would do is reach for the wallet or the purse. It's the first thing I would do. I need the name of the patient. I need the address of the patient. I need the medical list to see if there's any medicines in the purse or the wallet, any lists, any medical history written down in the wallet, in the purse. These are the things that people look for when you're taken to an emergency room. And the most important thing is emergency contacts. In some cases, ambulances would come in with car accidents or whatever. And there was a few times it was a bad enough wreck to where the police and the ambulance guys, they look for identification and stuff like that. Well, there was a couple of incidences where the patient got thrown from the vehicle, and therefore they couldn't find a purse, couldn't find a wallet, like a man, they couldn't find the wallet. There was no way to identify. But then, lo and behold, they did find a phone. Okay. All these phones got locking mechanisms, right? So that strangers, if you lose your phone, you can't get in. We would just pray that it was facial identification, so that all we had to do was hold it up. Even if the patient's unconscious, we can hold the phone up to the patient's face. But there is also on these phones, there is also a medical, can't find it. It says health. Now, if you hit that little button, it says, welcome to your health. And you hit continue. And there's my name, my birthday, my height, my weight. This is the new phone, and I haven't set it up yet. And here I am telling you guys. There we go. Notifications, mental well-being, health checklist, review. Okay, emergency SOS. I would click on that. I would also click on medical ID. Medical ID gives first responders vital information in an emergency. Emergency SOS, your phone can quickly call emergency services and message your emergency contacts. This feature is always active. So please, everybody's got smartphones. And for you older people that just have a flip phone, carry the information with you, please. Please. It's very, very important. And getting back to the original story about that phone, please. I was lucky. My car was here. My car does run. I was able to drive the 17 miles to the cellular store to get a new phone. But that just goes to show you how dependent we are. Our whole life is stored in this phone. All of our emergency contacts, all of our family phone numbers. How many of you watching right now, right off the top of your head, can you tell me the phone number of your emergency contacts? Think about it. Everybody is so used to a smartphone being so smart that it remembers all your phone numbers and you don't have to worry about that. How many times has maybe a son or a daughter or a grandson or a granddaughter, I want you to have my phone number, Grandma. Okay, put it in my phone. You don't see that phone number. It's in your phone. Oh, you go looking for it when you want to call them, but you don't memorize it because it's in your phone. Till your phone dies like mine did this morning. Have a backup. Let's stop relying on technology that breaks down and leaves you stuck unless you still have a landline or maybe a second phone. You know, I've really thought about that. Not that I want to get a landline, but I've really thought about maybe I ought to have a burner phone and leave it in my glove box. You know, what happens if my phone dies again? Just because it's brand new today doesn't mean it's guaranteed. I mean, yeah, I got the warranty on it, but that's not going to help me in the case of an emergency. So do you understand now why I made the title what I did? You know, I mean, this is vital information, people, and with the way the world's going today, uh, people drive crazy. I'm telling you what. When I get on the highway, like today, I had to get on the highway, drive those 17 miles to the cellular store. When I have oncoming traffic, because it's only 2 lanes, when I got a car coming at me, I make eye contact with that driver. I want to make damn sure that driver's looking at me and not looking down at the phone. I cannot tell you how many close calls I've had on these rural highways. It's awful, awful. So that's why I said, you know, we cannot be so dependent on these phones. We can't. Have a backup. Carry your little black phone book in your purse or have it in your glove box. Men, you don't carry purses. Have it in your glove box. Have it, I don't know, somewhere. But think about what would happen in an emergency if you didn't have your phone. Or like me this morning, my phone died. Literally died. It was frozen solid. Frozen solid. Lost all function of the phone. And that phone wasn't that old. I think a year and a half. That's all I've had that phone. It was a iPhone 14 Plus. Whatever, whenever that came out. But I certainly wasn't ready to get rid of it until this morning. So anyway, I wanted to tell you about emergencies and what we need to do. Emergencies with this important data that we rely on these phones, have a backup. Have a little phone book with you, emergency contacts. Have your medical information in your wallets with your prescription meds, a list of the dose, when you take it, what doctor prescribed it, and what are your medical conditions that you're being treated for. Vital information. So I'm going to let you go. I just had to clear that up, tell you what happened to me this morning. Money I didn't need to spend right now. But did I have a choice? No. It's the only means of communication. That's why I said maybe a second phone or a burner phone wouldn't be a bad idea. You never know when this technology is going to die. I certainly didn't expect it this morning. On a phone that's about a year and a half old, it's kind of crazy, especially what they're charging for phones. Oh my God. All right. I just wanted to get that off my chest and lecture you a little bit and let you know just how important our information is and how easy to access that information for somebody in an emergency trying to help you. It's what it's all about. Okay, you guys, you have a really nice evening. Be blessed. Stay prayed up. No emergencies, please. God bless you all. Have a good night. See you the next time.